Hopefully some of you are just joining us. I saw that there were a lot of people that were waiting to get things going from the very beginning, waiting in line in our queue. It is really great to have everybody here for the All Juice Draft, to be able to go and honor our friend Terez Paylor. With me, we have NFL insiders, we have broadcasters, we have announcers. This is something that I'm wanting to do for a while, and we did a mock draft last year. Wanted to continue this, to be able to do this again this year. Share some stories about our friend, have some memories brought up, and just talk about all the times that we were able to enjoy with Terez. I moved to Kansas City for my career in 2014, and I've always sort of admired his story of somebody that started in covering sports that he really didn't know much about, and always found a way to outwork everybody at his job and continue to rise up and cover the Mizzou beat and then the Chiefs beat, and then make his way over to Yahoo and do outstanding work as one of their insiders, and the podcast with Charles, and also the show that he did at 610 with Binkley and with BK, who are a part of this call. My buddy Danny Parkins is on this call, is now in Chicago. Us and Carrington Harrison, we helped bring that relationship with Terez to 610. And the thing that I will remember the most about him before we get started is, I think a lot of times we tend to find ourselves in a situation where we kind of just expect us to get sort of to the top without the work needed. Like we just don't want to get there. We're not feeling motivated. And you never got that vibe at all from Terez, ever. And it was always a reminder to me, especially later on, when he had 1,000 different things going on, when he was outworking everybody else to get a scoop, that we can all do a little bit more, and the work is earned. And so it's just, we miss him every day. And especially around now, I think it's important to be able to celebrate his life and also raise money for an amazing cause. So before we get started, those of us that are on the Zoom, you won't be able to see this, but I'm going to share my screen. This is where you can go at Howard University to make a donation. It's giving.howard.edu/give now. All the information, like you said, it's in the YouTube page. It's on the link. You can go ahead and make your gift, whether you want to do 25 or other, 50, 100, whatever you can do. Certainly, we appreciate it. And then also, you might see several of us as we go back to the screen in just a second. The All Juice team from Breaking Tea, all the proceeds from this shirt go directly to the Terez A. Paylor Scholarship Fund over at Howard University. So if you want to buy a shirt and be able to give directly that way, you can go ahead and be able to do that and make that happen. So without further ado, I want to bring on our first guest, Bill Reiter. Bill has known Terez an awfully long time, and he has the first overall pick on the board for Jacksonville. And Bill, I will kick things off and toss it over to you. Welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Thank guys. Hello, everybody. I got the easiest. This is great. This is the easiest selection of the night, and I won't belabor too much time here saying all the amazing things about Terez, other than, and I'm sure for many of you, maybe the best person in the business that I had the pleasure to know. And you just said it, Ben, the hardest worker I've ever been around. I used to think I was a hard worker until I met Terez, and I realized I was a remarkably lazy man by comparison. I know we all love him and we all miss him, and it's amazing that this is happening. And the last time that I talked to Terez was the Friday before he passed away, where we actually picked his brain on the upcoming draft and some of the guys, and he spent, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes just heaping praise on Trevor Lawrence, and as only he could, walking me through all the tape that he had watched and the people he had talked to. So with his voice sort of echoing in my ear, obviously Trevor Lawrence is the number one pick here in honor of our friend TP.
So Trevor Lawrence officially off the board, number one, the Clemson standout quarterback. Outstanding choice by Bill. I was thinking you might want to consider throwing a curveball and just leaving all of us scrambling just a little bit, but great overall pick, and appreciate you being here and be able to share some of these stories with us. Up next, very excited to bring on my friend Jenny Vrentas. She's the senior NFL writer over at Sports Illustrated. Jenny, appreciate you being here, and thanks so much for hopping on with us. It's good to see you.
Yeah, thanks so much for organizing this, Ben. And it's just great to be on here with so many people to honor Terez. I think second only to his industriousness and competitiveness in the business was how he treated his colleagues, and just was always such a warm, kind presence, despite, being so good at what he did, in a cutthroat business. So it's really nice to be on here with all of you. I have the second easiest pick, I think. So I will go with Zach Wilson, BYU quarterback.
So Zach Wilson is now off the board. This draft going a little bit more on a traditional route. Maybe we wouldn't have said that a few weeks ago when we were debating whether or not it was Zach Wilson or maybe Justin Fields in that number 2 pick for the Jets. But frankly, after they saw his pro day, it almost seemed inevitable that that was going to be the pick. So Jenny, thank you. You're going to be back on the clock a little bit later on. And I now toss things over to Charles Robinson of Yahoo Sports, one of their lead NFL insiders over there. And of course, the co-host on the outstanding Yahoo NFL podcast with Terez Paylor. Charles, it's great to see you and appreciate you being here. You're on the clock at number 3. What are you going to do, my friend?
Yeah, this is a big question, right, for the 49ers. Terez would have hated this pick. That's why this is not the easiest pick to make at this point, because I know he and I talked about Justin Fields all of last year. We talked about him the year before. Even though he was a Michigan football fan, he really had an appreciation for Justin Fields as a quarterback. I think, Terez really believed that if anyone was worthy of rivaling, Lawrence at the number 1 pick or even being in that debate, he really thought a lot about Justin Fields. Justin Fields, not even in consideration at the 3rd overall pick. Terez loved Kyle Shanahan, though, believed in his ability to work with quarterbacks. And it's going to be Mac Jones at number 3 for the San Francisco 49ers. It was always going to be Mac Jones. Don't believe anything you're hearing. It's Kyle Shanahan's going to get his pick. And I just got to say thank you to everyone for showing out for this. It would have meant the world to Terez. He would have been on here right now. He probably would have had some video queued up to show us exactly why he was making his pick. He'd be killing me right now for taking Mac Jones over Justin Fields or even Trey Lance at this point. But I got to go with what I think is going to happen. It's going to be Jones.
All right, so Mac Jones off the board at number 3. It's a good pick, although it's a little disappointing for somebody that has Trey Lance to the 49ers already bet at plus 250 odds, but I'll get over it and we'll move on just like we do when it comes to a lot of our different bets. I'm not sure if he is here already, but D. Orlando Ledbetter from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, a friend of Terez's for a long time. And is he, Orlando, are you here with us?
Oh, he's here.
He's right there.
All right, yeah, I do that all the time. Oh, there we go. That looks better. Okay, good. Well, yeah, I just had to show off my Howard shirt for everybody, for Terez as the dean of the old Howard sports writers. Good seeing everybody on here. Yeah, and Terez came up to me at the Super Bowl, I think in Arizona, and was like, hey, I'm 2010, I think, well, whatever year he graduated from Howard. And so we got to talking about the old professors and everything. And so I spent the whole Super Bowl walking him around to everybody. Hey, we got a bison covering the Chiefs now. We got a bison covering the Chiefs. And of course, was proud of his work, and so sad that, he's no longer with us. But let's keep it going. So with the 4th pick, and then I got to call Tyler on my way home today, who's also a Bison and worked with me here for a little while before going to my old paper in Cincinnati. I was like, hey, what are y'all doing? What are y'all doing at 5? I was like, I know Pitts is a smokescreen. I know it. And I know they're going quarterback, but I'm getting a bad vibe on Fields, and they're telling me Terry likes Lance. I think the football move is to get the tackle and shore up the line that has given up 133 sacks the last 3 years. But for us here, I'm going to stay with Justin Fields. Because, I think Terez would have went with Justin Fields at 4.
Nicely done. And Justin Fields, if I'm not mistaken, on the Yahoo All Juice draft was one of the selections. And Charles, I think you can back me up on that. I'm not sure which one of you guys had him, but I am pretty much aware that Justin was on that list. I do know that a few of you guys apparently may not be able to hear us okay, or it might be me that's on. So we're trying to work out that audio in real time. We'll continue to monitor that. But here's the list so far. Trevor Lawrence from Bill at #1 overall. Jenny went with Zach Wilson of BYU. Mac Jones of Alabama goes #3. So we got 4 quarterbacks at the first 4
Justin
picks.
Fields, if I'm not mistaken, on the
So what we're going to do is we're going to keep going. If we still don't have the audio figured out, we'll pause this and get back to it really shortly. But we're going to continue on for now. Is Will Brinson of CBS on with us? Will, you here, bud?
Yeah, what's up, guys? I won't, I didn't know Terez as well as many of y'all, but I mean, obviously, the work that he put in and the way that he grinded, just an incredible inspiration. I mean, almost as, inspiring to seeing how everybody has sort of rallied around it. And I would encourage anybody, assuming the audio is working, if you're listening, go to the link and buy either a hoodie or a t-shirt, an All Juice hoodie or t-shirt, because it goes to a great cause. And, look, I got to tell you, one, Charles Robinson, you're making my wallet hurt, bro, with the confidence of that Mac Jones, the 3 selection. I don't like hearing that. And 2, I was going to go Jamar Chase here, but if Kyle Pitts is sitting there at 5, we're telling Joe Burrow sorry, and we're taking the dude on the All Juice team. Give me Kyle Pitts. This is a walk up, like a sprint up to the podium, slap the card down. This is easy. This is free. Kyle Pitts at 5. What are we doing?
Kyle Pitts, possible steal at #5, and a bit surprising. Will. All right, we're also getting a little bit more of a notice. Apparently, I'm the only one that people can hear.
I heard Will.
I don't know if you guys are hearing the same. And again, I apologize for anybody that's not able to hear what's going on. We tried to take out some of the headphones and have everybody pick up through the microphone. So we'll see if that's able to work maybe a tad bit better. We'll mess around with some of the settings as well. Let's keep going. Cameron Wolfe from ESPN is on with us. Cam, you have the 6th pick for Miami. Go ahead, man. Go ahead and let us know where you're going to go here. A lot of really interesting names still on the board. So where are we going to go here?
Yeah, I just want to start off and say Terez meant so much to me, meant so much to us, especially as Black journalists. This younger generation, we came up, and there's often like there's the OGs and then there's us. And Terez was like a perfect mix for me of everything. He could hang with the OGs and he had the respect of the OGs, but with us, he always reached back. And I remember the first time I met him, I was covering the Broncos for the Denver Post, and he came up to me we're sitting in the press box, and I knew who he was. He didn't know, I knew who he was, and I didn't think he knew who I was. But he said, "Hey man, young fella, I've been reading your work. You're doing a good job." And that was my first year covering the beat. And he said, "Hey man, you ever need anything, take my number." And that was the start of our relationship. And we talk, once a week, pretty much for the years to come. And I have so much respect for him, so much respect for what he did for journalism, but also for the younger generation and setting an example. So I think that'll be his legacy moving forward. I'm wearing the All Juice shirt because, I read his All Juice teams every year to figure out what prospects I'm missing. So I miss Terez every day. I know he's watching in heaven and watching down to see what we're doing and talking draft, his favorite thing about NFL. So with that said, I'll go ahead and get into the pick. The Dolphins are looking for a playmaker. We got Jamar Chase on the board. We got the Alabama receivers on the board. For me, I look at Jamar Chase and he's the wide receiver 1 in this class. He's a guy who's physical. He plays the type of game that Terez would love. I know Terez, like you used the expression, he's a dog. I've heard from many scouts that Jamar Chase is a dog. That's the way he plays. He's physical. He's a bully on the field, and he's going to be a wide receiver 1. So Dolphins go Jamar Chase, receiver, LSU right here.
Jamar Chase ends up moving down to Miami. Still some audio issues. I think what we're going to continue to do, guys, because everybody on the call is still able to hear. The nice part is that we are recording this. So once this is done, we are going to immediately upload this to YouTube. People will be able to see the different draft picks in the event that they're unable to hear the audio that's going on. Again, super apologetic. The good news is that there's still opportunities. Ultimately, what we're here to do is raise money for the Terez Paylor Scholarship Fund. And again, you can go to giving.howard.edu/give now. That's on your screen. You can also go ahead and buy a Breaking t-shirt for the All Juice team as well. Moving on, number 7. Somebody here in the Kansas City area was a part of the Chiefs team for the last handful of years, recently moved over to Let It Fly Media. BJ Kissel taking for the Detroit Lions at pick number 7. So BJ, you are on the clock, my friend. Go ahead.
Thanks, Heis. Yeah, I was a little nervous when I got this pick because anybody knows Terez knows that he's from Detroit and he always had an opinion on what the Lions were doing. But I think anybody who also knew Terez, and one thing I would challenge everybody on this call and everybody listening that knew him as a person, as a friend. And the thing that I miss the most is Terez was one of the most authentic people I've ever met. When you talk to him, he knew who he was, where he came from, and what he cared about, and he never really wavered from that. And that was comforting to talk to him. You knew where he was coming from, and he was always real with you. The one story I'll share, and I've shared this before, but he came over to tell me before the draft that year that he was getting the job at Yahoo Sports. He was going to work with Charles, and he came over one night, and we were drinking late, watching tape because that's what we did. And he wouldn't let me fast forward once the plays were over because he wanted to see how these edge rushers were celebrating with their teammates and how their teammates were running over to them after they made a play, because he saw that as juice. He saw it as how their teammates responded to him, let him know what kind of teammate he was. And we were watching Kamoka Ture and Obo Akinrakwo, all those guys, and their teammates were into it. And that's how detailed he was when he was watching film. When he was doing the all juice stuff, he watched everything and he cared about everything. So with this pick for the Detroit Lions, I don't think I could make this pick and not have a guy that can go out there and make plays. I was hoping Jamar Chase was going to fall. And while I know Sewell was going to be a guy that Terez would love to be in that conversation, I've got to go with Alabama wide receiver Jalen Waddle to go out there and make some plays for the Detroit Lions.
Awesome. Thank you, BJ. Jalen Waddle now off the board. He goes ahead of his teammate Devontae Smith, the Heisman Trophy winner, which now puts an interesting conundrum back to our friend Will Brinson at pick number 8. So where do you go from here, Will?
Well, man, I would say the Panthers, it is an interesting conundrum because I think the Panthers are actually going to take a cornerback in the draft. I think they'll take Patrick Surtain or JC Horn. Not entirely sure who they like better. I think they'll both be on the board given the way that things will fall. But if Penei Sewell's there, I think they have to take Sewell unless they want to trade down, because when the reality of their situation, once the Deshaun Watson stuff happened and he was off the market and they traded for Sam Darnold, they knew they have a massive hole at left tackle. Greg Little, I don't think probably won't even make the roster once it comes around to the season, which means that they're probably going to have to fill that hole. And what better way to fill it than with Penei Sewell here at 8. So given the way that the board shook out, I'll take the left tackle.
Penei Sewell goes at number 8 for Carolina. Nice opportunity for them. Thought that he wouldn't move past 6, but that's how the board ended up playing out. And now we go to Denver. Oh, the Broncos still trying to figure out what's going to happen with their quarterback situation. So Lindsay Jones of The Athletic, what do your Denver Broncos do? How do they try and get this all sorted out and figured out together? What's going to happen here?
Hi, everyone. I was doing a little fishing around for some potential trade partners to see how the board might fall here. But I guess before I get into my pick, thank you so much for doing this. This is really incredible. I mean, it's been kind of remarkable to just talk to people over the last couple months just about how much we all loved and respected Terez. And I think back so many times to even this time last year when we were on just all of these Zooms, and every single time you would hear Terez ask a question, whether it was, here on a Zoom, we're on a Zoom with Brett Beach or Ron Rivera, or if you were in a locker room and you happened to end up in the same little scrum as Terez. I mean, I don't know how many times I would hear him ask a question and you would just be like, that is so smart. like, oh my God, like I would never have thought to ask a question that way. Or he clearly, you could tell by the way he was asking questions, the way he viewed the game. And those rare times that I was kind of going on the same wavelength, I had the same wavelength, I just was like, oh my God, if I have the same idea about as Terez right now, then that means I've stumbled upon something that makes sense and is right. And one of my favorite Terez memories, Nate Taylor, my buddy right there, was we were all in Los Angeles for that insane Monday Night Football game, the Chiefs Rams. There was like 400 points scored in that game. I mean, it was the most ridiculous game. And we all get back on this shuttle bus in the middle of the night, and we were just like giddy because nobody could believe like what we had just seen. It was like one of the most ridiculous displays of football. And Terez was laughing the loudest. And I think he just loved every single minute of that game and the ridiculousness of it. And so, you know, I just think back to his laugh and just how smart everything that he wrote was. And I hope that so many of the young reporters here that he mentored can take that. And I think there's just so much the rest of us can take by the way that we love this game and the way that we try to think about it and build relationships in this business. And I'll put out one more little plug to I know there's some PFWA writers on here, and hopefully there's more that are watching. We just launched a new award, our new off-field award that is going to go along with a lot of other off-field awards, the Terez Paylor Emerging Writer Award. So send us your nominations. We're looking for the exact type of journalist that Terez was when he was younger, and the type of folks that he mentored, the type of men and women that he sought out. So, you know, shoot me a message, shoot Jenny a message. We think it's going to be a really special award, and hopefully can do a lot to really honor his legacy. So moving on really quick. I think the Broncos would be thrilled if the board played out this way, where they didn't actually have to make a move to get a quarterback. So George Paton, with his first pick as general manager, is going to take Trey Lance, quarterback from North Dakota State.
So two things to take away from that. First of all, Lindsay, that news is wonderful, and please do, if you can, shoot that out via Twitter so we can let our audience know a little bit further about it. But what an amazing opportunity! That's really, really wonderful news. And also the other takeaway is that the Broncos at 9 somehow get Trey Lance. Things seem to work out okay sometimes for Denver. It's taken them a handful of years, but they always seem to inevitably get back to getting a quarterback that they might like. Up next at number 10, we have the Dallas Cowboys. And I feel like before we go to Nate Taylor of The Athletic, I kind of feel like the Cowboys here, this has always sort of been the pick that everybody just sort of assumed that they would take, right? Is it going to be somebody on the defensive side of the ball? Is it going to be a linebacker? Is it going to be Surtain? Nate, are you going to change things up? Where are we going with this 10th pick?
Yeah, thanks for setting me up, Ben. I think if this plays out like it does on Thursday night, it gives the Cowboys a lot of advantageous positions to go with. I am interested to know just what the Cowboys feel like is most pressing, given the fact that they released a video with Kyle Pitts, because clearly he's not going to probably be there. But yeah, Ben, when you told me that I was going to be picking for the Cowboys at 10, my immediate thought, because this was right before I started covering the Chiefs for The Athletic, is how passionate and, how much of a bold move Terez loved what the Chiefs did in 2017 and going up and getting Mahomes. Obviously covering the team for a couple of years, understanding the fan base, and obviously just the historical nature of them, waiting since 1983 with Todd Blackledge to get a quarterback. So that was the first thing that went into my mind. I was also going to mention the insane 2018 game that Lindsay just referenced, and just what a treat it was to just cover a game next to Terez. Just the enthusiasm, the passion. I just love that so many of us are wearing the t-shirt that honors him, that also is going to be a part of those funds that go to his scholarship at Howard University. I can't, similar to what Cameron said, as a Black man coming up in this industry, coming behind him, it's such a massive loss. He was such a great individual, a friend, knew how much, it cared to him to see other people succeed. in this business. And so I can't, I'm always going to be grateful for Terez, and I'm just so thrilled that we are ensuring his legacy, just beyond the reporting, the writing, the hilariousness that he would bring to the podcast with Charles that I would listen to all the time, along with the insight. I mean, he is a wonderful man. The more I think about it, the more I just understand how he not only impacted my life, but others around me. And so I know for people in Kansas City, where I live, where I'm from, I just know that they're always going to remember Terez, and I really appreciate that. And so whether it's 4 years like it is, going back to 2017, or whether it's, 10 years from now, 20 years, whenever people think of Patrick Mahomes in that 2017 draft, I know a lot of people are going to mention the video of Terez basically saying that this has been waiting for so long, that they have gone through so many, dark days, particularly in January of seasons ending, that he understood the connection as to what that move was going to be for the team, for the franchise, and obviously for the city in the historical context and landscape of the league. Now shifting back to the Cowboys, I was going to be in a tizzy if Kyle Pitts was going to still be there, because obviously I would have just given off my Jerry Jones impression, which I'm going to save for later now. But with what's still on the board, and given how many points they gave up last year, I mean, I got to go with Patrick Surtain II. We know the lineage. We know player's kid. He was so good at Alabama. A lot of times teams would just say, hey, man, I'll wave to you, and I'm never going to throw the ball your way. So the Cowboys need a shutdown corner. It makes all the sense in the world. It should be Patrick Surtain if the board plays out this way, and I don't see why it shouldn't be if that's the case on Thursday night.
Patrick Surtain to the Cowboys at number 10. Nate, thank you. That was a really inspiring conversation, especially about your roots and being able to learn from him. He in Kansas City, and you've been doing such great work here in the city as well. It's been a joy to be able to cover and watch your work as well. Let's move on to pick number 11. Jenny Vrentas, you are back on the board. I suppose I ended up giving you both New York teams. Not necessarily, I don't think it was a mistake, but you certainly know the market in the area quite well, and you've covered both teams. So the board falls to you both to cover the Jets and the Giants here, and also with pick number 11. So the Giants at 11, what do they do?
All right. Glad to be back, Ben. And it's nice to hear everyone's tributes and memories. For the Giants here, I'm going to go with Rashawn Slater, offensive tackle, Northwestern. Receiver is definitely a possibility here, but with the way the board has fallen, Slater's still there. Would be a great pick to shore up the offensive line, which has been Gettleman's number one priority. So I think that would be a strong pick for the Giants.
All right. The second offensive tackle now off the board when Rashawn Slater. So Jenny, thank you. I'm looking for Grant Paulson. I do not know if he is currently with us. If that is the case, then we're going to throw a little bit of a curveball in the direction of one Ken Swanson. He of Arrowhead Pride. You're going to have a couple picks now, Ken, because you're coming up next on the board as we take one more look. You'll have both the Chargers as well as the Philadelphia Eagles. So back-to-back picks for you, Kent, if you want to go ahead and kick things off. And it was a bit of a surprise, but the board might have fallen in your favor for both of these teams. So tell us what you're going to do.
Well, thanks for having me here first. And I just want to say I got a unique perspective because I started as an admirer, as a fan of Terez. I wasn't really in this industry, and I can just tell you, getting kind of both perspectives and seeing, the fan side, his word was gold to Kansas City, and he was so admired and respected by this fan base here in the area. And getting to meet him was a humbling experience for me, because I was intimidated when I first met him. BJ introduced me out at Indy. And man, I was 6 months in, and he made me feel, he gave me confidence, man. I mean, he gave me so much confidence, and he had nice things to say. And it's always come back to putting in the work. And I've tried to live by that. And, he's given me a few things that I've held on really firmly to as I've kind of grown and learned. And it's, I mean, I mean this when I say it, like he was the standard here. And I miss him immensely and loved his work. Let's go here and look at pick 12. Philadelphia Eagles. They need everything. Let's just be honest. They need help. And I think they're a year away, but I like a cornerback here for him at a real quality, high athletic profile. J.C. Horn out of South Carolina, really tested through the roof here recently. Kind of grabby at times, but I think he's a good fit in Philadelphia, high upside player, a few technical refinements. He's going to be a really good player there. And Los Angeles Chargers. How about here? We'll go protect Justin Herbert, right? I think we got to go make a move to protect Justin Herbert. And Christian Darrisaw is sitting there, the third offensive tackle off the board. I like him here. Another guy, great athletic profile, high level tape, a little inconsistency at times, but I think he's a guy, if he hits his ceiling, you're going to have Justin Herbert's blind side protected for the near future.
Awesome. Thank you, Ken. You're right. The standard, without question, in Kansas City, and outstanding picks by you as well. I would have met Terez at some point working in sports radio in Kansas City, but fortunately, I was able to meet him a little bit sooner because of our next guest. He's going to be making the pick for the Vikings here, and that's none other than my good friend, Danny Parkins. Danny, what's up, man?
Hi, so what's up, buddy? This group of people that got together for Terez is really cool. It's a who's who of the NFL, and I think that, among many things, is obviously the tributes speak to his impact on all of us, not even to mention the game. And Terez and I had a very cool relationship. He would always say on the air, I mean, I probably had Terez on the show legitimately over 100 times. He would always remind me that I was the first person to put him on the air in KC, because I was young and had moved to the market, and he was still on the Mizzou football beat. And like, I had no bona fides in KC, and he didn't really feel like he had many bona fides yet, but you know, I thought that I worked hard, and I do, but Terez, as everybody here knows, outworked everybody. But he had this loyalty to me because I was the first person to put him on the air. And I just put him on the air because no one else would talk to me, and no one else would get guests, and we would be hanging out in locker rooms or whatever. And we just bonded. We were around the same age. We both loved the NBA. Neither of us were from KC, but we were loving KC. We both loved football. We just loved shooting the, whatever. And it was just, we really got along very well. And it was when he passed, and, I talked about it on my show in Chicago, and I would have him on my national show on Sunday nights when I still did that. It was kind of crazy, the number of people that reached out to me on Twitter and were like, if they weren't readers of the Kansas City Star or at Yahoo, right? People who consumed audio, right? Obviously his podcast with Charles is incredible and blew up into huge levels, but like, a lot of people said to me that they heard Terez and they were exposed to Terez for the first time, like through one of our shows together. And he talked about wanting to, dominate the game, right? And be the best and be a multimedia presence. And so like the idea that like in any way we helped expose, like, he had a radio show at 610. He had his own show. If you would have told him that when we were talking, when he was on the Mizzou beat, he would have just been elated. And so it was really cool to come up in the business with him. And it crushes me that we're not going to be able to share wins with each other, because, I think he was going to be the biggest thing in football media for a couple of decades. And I was looking forward to having him on my shows for the rest of our careers. And so it was awesome to see that he got the Hall of Fame vote and he got the national platform that he always wanted, but it wasn't just writing. He got to do the podcast and the radio show in KC and make TV appearances. Like, dude was a star and he made all of us better and he mentored so many people. And so I'm going to miss him a lot. And I do, but with the Vikings pick, and I'll be back to make the Bears pick, and I'll share some funnier anecdotes. Then Vikings select Elijah Vera Tucker, guard, USC.
Vikings known for a longtime guard with Steve Hutchinson for a long time. Now they take Vera Tucker out of USC. Danny, appreciate you. And I think you'll appreciate this as well. One of my last times that I got to hang out with Terez, and I know you're an avid poker player, we got to play poker together. And I took a big hand from him. And I'm not a particularly good poker player, like at all. And damn, that felt good to get like one win off of Terez. And he just said like, nice hand, man. Nice hand. Like he knew like it gutted him a little bit that I was able to take one off of him. But that was the only one. He ended up getting back at me a little bit later. And that was also that same night we were going back and forth trying to one-up each other on our Michael McDonald impressions. And I wasn't going to be able to top his. I do some decent impressions, but I wasn't going to be able to top him doing Motown. That just wasn't going to happen at all. To the New England Patriots we go, and Joshua Brisco over at Sports Radio 810 and of Arrowhead Report on Fan Nation. Joshua, I appreciate you being with us, man. Go ahead for the Patriots. You have the opportunity also to sabotage a Bill Belichick team, which is what happened when we did a similar draft last year. So what is the plan for this year?
I might have accidentally sabotaged them if one guy wasn't on this list, but Devontae Smith is here. And so I'm going to just do that and then get the pick out of the way and say one quick thing after the fact. But I'll take Devontae Smith. I don't know who's going to throw him the ball next year. I don't know what the Patriots' plan is. We're taking a quarterback, but I'll take Devontae Smith there and feel perfectly happy about that. My experience with Terez is probably most similar to Kent's stories of being an admirer first. And then I got to do TV with him one time. And it's funny because I don't remember who else was on the panel. And Terez was one of those guys one of the few times where I like remember texting my dad afterwards, like, guess what I just did TV with? I just did a TV show with Terez Paylor because it was like Kent said, the gold standard. But one thing that's not, specific, I guess, to a Terez story, but to stories of everyone else, specifically talking to Nate and our colleague and podcast cohort, Seth Kaiser, and a few other people that are on the call right now. Terez passing unexpectedly, I think for me, gave me a reason to be extra appreciative of the people that we do have while we have them and the work that they do and the impact that they have. Because we all know Terez sent waves throughout careers for so many people, as we've already heard about, a dozen times. And there are a lot of people that I on this call that I know are doing that for others, that have done that for me, that I guess I've been able to zoom out a little bit and be appreciative of those people while we have them here. So that's something else that I think Terez did completely by accident that has helped me appreciate the people that we have now. So thank you for having me for this too.
Thank you, Josh. It was good to see you. Good to have you on. And yeah, TV appearances with Terez over the years were a lot of fun because he was a very chill guy off camera, but the camera or the red light for radio would pop back on, and all of a sudden he got a little bit of a sense that he was ready and ready to go, and always had opinions and always was ready to give you his best stuff. So it was always a fun time knowing that if he was going to be on TV or on the radio with you or competing against you for a story, that you wanted to be able to try and meet him at that level. Not an easy place to be. I want to go now to a guy that I'm proud to call a friend, a long time in the fantasy industry, but someone who I know has respected Terez's work for a long time. He's over at Faith and Noise. It's my buddy Derek Brown, and he's going to be making the pick for the Arizona Cardinals. What's up, D-Bro?
What's going on, Ben? This is absolutely fantastic to see the turnout here and everybody considering honor Terez's life, his work, everything. Again, I'll echo some other thoughts in here. I was not as close to Terez as any of y'all. What I could say is from afar, I always truly appreciated every piece of content his work ethic, the amount of real and the sharp analysis that he brought to the game. I remember one of the streams that I watched with Charles and Terez on about this is post Super Bowl, and how much Terez was just like tearing into the Chiefs for what they want, every bit of content that he put out there. So with this pick, a lot of ways on trotting out a starting trio of Malcolm Butler, Robert Alford, and Byron Murphy with their corners. So I know that the medicals have been back and forth. I think they're going to take a little bit of a risk here and go with Caleb Farley here to address the cornerback unit because the upside is huge. If he's healthy, the guy is stud.
Caleb Farley to Arizona at number 16. We go back to BJ Kissel for the Las Vegas Raiders. And again, BJ, your time in Kansas City with the Chiefs, this is an opportunity to sabotage the Raiders if you want. There's a good chance that the Raiders could frankly sabotage themselves, but I will leave it to you to make that decision for yourself. What's the play?
Putting a diehard Chiefs fan that worked for the organization for 6 years in charge of the Raiders, I couldn't care less about this pick right now. So if you knew the name of the KU quarterback, I would probably take them for the Raiders. And so I did what I should do, and I texted Kent Swanson who the Raiders take because I'm taking the KU quarterback. And the first name I can't pronounce, so I said not doing that one. So Tevin Jenkins is who the Raiders are going to take right here. And I do have a couple of stories that I want to share about Terez. Last one was a little more serious. I know we talked, we'll stay in the AFC West, but it was the Broncos game, Mahomes' first start. I'll never forget that game. And Sam and I have talked about this before. When you're in the Broncos stadium and you're in the press box, and Sam and Terez were sitting kind of catty corner about 10 feet off to the side. And I, on the road, was sitting next to Brett Veach with being Mahomes' first start. He was a little excitable too, so I had to kind of calm him down in front of other people. But I didn't have to worry about it because of the cackling and the constant, like laugh of Terez every time Mahomes made one of those crazy throws late in the game. It was hilarious to hear Sam and Terez just giggling the entire game about what the future of the Chiefs was going to hold. And the other thing I want to say about Terez, and as somebody that had that competitive and being on the team side, competitive, like you still want to create content that fans that want to consume. But one of the favorite things of being on that beat was watching Terez and Herbie Teope go at it, sitting next to each other in the beat room. And one of them would break a piece of news like 3 feet from the other one. And the other one would storm out of the thing so mad, probably calling the agent to figure out what had just happened and why they didn't get it. But the competitive friendship that those two guys had and how close they were was a beautiful thing to see. I love being on the Chiefs beat the whole time because everybody got along so well, especially when Terez was there. But even when he came back, it was like a homecoming every time Terez came back and was there for a Chiefs press conference. And so that was a lot of fun. And the last thing I do want to say, in having a chance to go with Herbie up to Terez's service, and I would ask anyone who knows Terez or knew their little glimpse of Terez's life that they got, go learn a little bit more about the man that was before you knew him. Because Charles, the stuff that we learned about Terez growing up and how accomplished he was as a kid, and the things that he did at Howard, and how he never spoke about that stuff. And I don't want to repeat it because I'll probably screw something up, but he was a very accomplished student from the time he was a kid, way beyond what I knew as a great football person and a great person in general. So I'd invite anybody that has that feeling with Terez to look up and learn a little bit more about the man, because you're going to learn a lot more and it'll open your eyes. It did for me when I had the fortunate to go up there with Herbie. But Tevin Jenkins is the player. Appreciate everybody for being on this. It's a cool thing to be a part of.
BJ, just to follow up, is there anywhere online where details from that service or a lot of the elements that you're talking about, was any of that published? And is that something that you can tweet out?
I hope so. It's probably in the service thing that we have right over here, and I'll tweet it out. I tried finding the YouTube video. It's probably not something to put on a live broadcast. If anybody found the YouTube video of the service, I tried going on YouTube and I tried going to the church and I couldn't find it because the guy was amazing. That was an amazing service that I'd go back and listen to anytime if anybody can find that. But I would ask anyone to seek it out if you can and find it, because it's special.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all those different stories and a lot of those different memories.
Sorry, Sam.
We'll continue on to Miami. They already had Jamar Chase added to the list from Cameron Wolfe of ESPN, but excited to bring on Robert Mays from The Athletic to be able to make the next selection for Miami here at pick number 18. And Robert, you are on the clock, my friend. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. Sincerely, it's really special to be a part of this. I'm very frustrated though, because I really wanted to pick Tevin Jenkins for the Dolphins, because I know that Terez would have loved him. He's such a nastiness about him. I can just imagine Terez getting excited while watching Tevin Jenkins throw people around. That Texas tape is ideal for the way that Terez would want to spend his time. I knew Terez for years. The first time I think I had him on one of my podcasts was in 2016. He was still at the Star, and we were doing division previews. And he was just somebody that I always delighted in talking about football with. And being a national football writer is kind of strange. And you go to training camps or practices, and you never have any idea who's going to be there. And I was always happy to see him. He was always one of my favorite people to just run into in the rhythms of that life. And we would just sit there and talk about stuff. And he was just so curious all of the time. And I always appreciated that about him so much. And he just drives that curiosity in me. And every time I think about him, he makes me want to be better at this job, because he appreciated it so much and he was so grateful to do it. But he also just had this tenacity. It was just this combination of factors that it was inspiring. As much as I liked him and as much as I considered him a friend, I also thought he was an inspiration, and he continues to be one. Every time I talk about him, every time I hear a story about him, it just makes me realize how lucky I am to do this and how rare the chance is to get to learn about this game, because that's what he would do constantly. He delighted in being able to learn about it and being able to ask questions about it. He would be on my show and I would be the host, and he would start asking me questions about things that I would say, because he wanted to just dig deeper. And there was one more layer. The last time he was on, we just did a big breakdown of positional value after the 2020 season. And we could have talked for hours. I mean, he was that kind of person in the way that he saw the game. And I've thought about him a lot in the last few months. And every single time I think about him, it just, again, reignites the fire I have about this. And he was that kind of guy. And that fire is going to burn for a really, really long time because of him. So with Tevin Jenkins off the board, which I'm very annoyed about still, I'm going to take Azeez Ojulari, the edge from Georgia. They have their depth chart at that spot in Miami is not very deep right now. They had to release a couple of guys. Their free agency spending from last year is not looking great in retrospect. Trading Eric Flowers today made me think that a tackle might be on the board, but I don't like any of the other guys available quite as much. So I'm going to give him some edge depth here.
Awesome. Robert, thank you. That was I apologize if sometimes through a lot of the course of these different conversations that I'm at a bit of a lack of words for a couple of reasons. The first is that I'm trying to keep up with all the different picks, but it's wonderful to hear all these different stories and how all of us, some of us have never met before, others have known each other for a long time, but we're all connected through this great human being, and all of us have such personal and meaningful memories to be able to share. And I know that for anybody that's been tuning in, whether or not you've had some audio issues or not, you will be able to hear the stories. We are recording this Zoom, and we'll make sure that those stories are told and you are able to hear them, because they're absolutely worth sharing and worth sharing over again. So thank you guys. I say this again and again and again. It really does mean a lot that you're here to be able to share these memories and to share his legacy. Before we go to 19 with Washington, and Danny, a bit of a heads up, I'm going to have you pick for Washington as well, since you're up next for Chicago at pick number 20. If you see on the screen, again, for anybody that's watching the live stream, please take an opportunity, if you can, to help make a donation to the scholarship fund. You can go to giving.howard.edu/give now. When you scroll to the site, it's under tribute gift. You mentioned that this gift is an honor, memory, or support of somebody, and then mention in honor of Terez Paylor. And then under designation on the page, you'll select other, and then Terez Paylor Scholarship Fund. Or if you just want a t-shirt like the one that I am wearing, which you can't see because you're looking at a picture of the website for the All Juice team. But you now know what the t-shirt looks like because it's right on the screen. That's over at breakingtea.com, and 100% of the proceeds are going directly to the Terez Paylor Scholarship Fund over at Howard. We are moving along. We are now at pick number 19, and Danny Parkins, you are back on the clock with 2 selections for Washington at 19 and Chicago at number 20. So go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I've clearly prepared for the Washington football team's draft needs. I know this intricately as a radio host in Chicago. So I'll just assume that Ryan Fitzpatrick needs some protection. No, Christian Darrisaw, he can go to the Washington football team. Ryan Pace would be upset that he doesn't get to draft an offensive lineman for the Bears.
He is unfortunately selected. Ken Swanson took him to the Chargers at 13, unfortunately.
Well, I told you I was having a little bit of audio issues on my end as well. Micah Parsons, he available? They could use a linebacker in Washington.
Micah Parsons is available.
Not anymore. He's a member of the Washington football team. And if I know anything about my guy Chico, he loves a tackler from Penn State. So he is now off the board. And for the Bears, I'll select the Chicago kid from Northwestern. They want a tackle, they want offense, they want a quarterback really. But I'll say Greg Newsome from Northwestern goes to the Bears. But the last thing that I just want to say about Terez, because the picks are whatever, none of us know. Even the most sourced people here have no idea. But his sense of humor was so incredible. He was so serious and with his work, but just the ball busting could be all time. And his Pacino impression, like the guy just thought that thought he was Dana Carvey or something. Like he's so much confidence in his Pacino impression. And he would always choose to do the scene about the great ass and the head all the way up in it. And I'm like, Terez, like, come on, man. Like we're going into the locker room like right now. But he just had that ability to turn it on and turn it off. And it was just, I'll miss his laugh. Is just incredible. I know Sam Mellinger wrote about it in his piece, but so I don't mean to step on you, Sammy, if you were going to talk about it, but like to be in a press box with Terez and then to hear him just cackle. Like there's no cheering in a press box, but I do think you're allowed to laugh at a pancake block. Like I don't think that's a rule that's like on the press credential, but like, and then he'd get on me. He's like, "Hey, Park, you're just watching the ball. Like you got to see this left guard pull and what he does to the dude." And then I'd crane my neck and look at the screen. And I'm like, "Oh, damn, Terez, you were on it. Okay." But the guy, he lit up a room, and not just with football, also with hip hop and basketball and terrible Al Pacino impressions that he was way too confident in.
1 inch.
Yeah.
Another
unbelievable that he would keep doing it. I'm like, Terez, it's not that good, but he just no fear. I love that guy.
As the radio term would be, he committed to the bit.
Yeah.
And he committed 100%. So Danny, that was well done. I was hoping that somebody would bring up the Pacino impression. I'm glad that it was brought up on the stream today. Up next, pick number 21. Is another friend from Kansas City, but he's currently doing awesome work over at 101 ESPN in St. Louis. And somebody that had the opportunity to host a show with Terez Paylor for, I believe, was it 1 or 2 years, BK, that you were a host of the Terez Paylor show before Bink ended up taking over? Was it 1 or 2?
Just the 1 year.
Just the one, but a memorable one indeed.
Yeah, it was incredible. Terez is the absolute best, as you've heard from everybody else so far today. I think the thing that stood out to me the most in the last, I guess, month or so, is just how everybody seems to have Terez stories. Like, I'm really not sure how he had time to mentor seemingly every person that has ever written a word about football or talked a word about football, but he found a way to do it. Cameron mentioned something earlier, I think it was, and he was talking about how You did a great job of being able to kind of pull together the new school and the old school. And I think that's a good way to describe Terez just in general. Like, he was an old soul that appreciated the new things in life as well. You could say that about football. Like, he cared about running the football immensely. He also loved watching the new school quarterbacks. Like, his favorite thing in the world was being able to watch Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you wouldn't find anybody that was more excited about last year's matchup between those two. The guy loved football. Everybody in this room knows that. And I think, as Heis said, I had the opportunity to host that show with him. The thing that really stood out to me was Terez wanted to be great at everything. And he wasn't willing to just do something. Like, if he was going to do it, he was going to be awesome at it. And so when we would do our show, the way it would work is I would kind of produce stuff, right? So I would come up with the content that we were going to talk about, and I would run it by him to make sure everything was good. And he always said yes. And he'd find a way to come up with something if he didn't have anything previously. But eventually we got like 2-3 shows in. He was like, hey, how do you do this? Like, what do you mean? It's like, well, what does it look like to like produce a radio show? It's like, Terez, you're never going to have to worry about that. Like, there's never going to be a day in your life when you have to worry about producing a show. He's like, yeah, but I want to learn. Like, I want to be good at this. I want to learn how to do the other stuff that goes into a radio show. It's like, all right, how much do you want to know? He's like, well, we'll start at the beginning. What's it look like when you start producing a radio show? And then how do I finish it? Like, everything in between. So I took him into our room where we would produce The Drive when I was working in KC at 610. I was like, all right, here's how it works. So we went through the full day, starting in the morning and then all the way up until like we got to showtime, of everything that it would include to produce a show. And that's just the way that he was. Like, whether it be writing or video or radio, whatever it was, he wanted to make sure he was great at it. And he also wanted to make sure you had fun while you were doing it. And there were days when I wasn't sure that was going to happen. Anybody that has ever done any amount of radio or podcasting in the same room with Terez probably has had this feeling where he walks into the room and you're like, is Terez in a bad mood today? Like, did I do something? Is he mad at me? Like, what exactly is going on here? And he was just busy, or he had something going on. And then that light would go on and he was ready to go, and he would light up the room in a way that was special and in a way that made everybody feel his warmth and his love for whatever it was that he was talking about, whether it be movies or music or football typically. And so that just always stuck with me, because I remember it's like our second show we did together. I can be serious sometimes. And he told me right before we went on air, he's like, hey, BK, I'm like, what? We're getting ready to go on air. Like, what do you need? It's like, don't forget to have fun. And I think that's kind of how Terez was. He wanted to be great, but he wanted to make sure he was having fun while he was doing it. And I wanted to leave you guys with this. And by the way, I'm gonna take Kwity Paye, defensive end out of Michigan. I think he would have enjoyed seeing a Michigan guy going to one of his favorite general managers in the sport. And if you guys haven't seen Chris Ballard's comments, be sure to check those out on Terez. Terez sent me some advice one time. It was in the middle of me trying to get a job in Kansas City. And it was a lifelong dream of mine to work in KC. That's where I'm from. It's where I grew up. And it's all I ever wanted, really. I got passed over for 2 or 3 different jobs, and Terez had put in a good word for me on all of them. And he just sent me a message, and he said, grit is perseverance, the ability to stay connected to a goal, even when there are obstacles or when the goal is far away. I think Terez was like the personification of grit in every way possible. So I just wanted to leave you guys with that, because I think that's probably the best advice, especially for what we do, that I've ever received. And man, do I miss that guy. And I wish he's not my pick, but I wish we could have talked about Landon Dickerson tonight with Terez, because God, would he have loved watching where Landon Dickerson was going to go. So thanks for doing this, Heist, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, BK. That was awesome. And I remember the two of us had a conversation a few days after we got the news. And I'm glad you shared that story tonight, because I remember having that conversation with you, and it stuck. It really did. So thank you for that. I'm very excited that Jeff Allen is here. I got a chance to meet Jeff when I first moved out to Kansas City when he was on the Chiefs. was always a friend of the show, always someone that was great, both on the field and also with his time to us, and someone who also knew Terez very well. So Jeff, it's great to see you. I know you're out kicking some ass in the cookie business now after a very outstanding NFL career. So thank you for making time for us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's really an honor to be here. And I love hearing the stories. It really just shows the impact he's had on so many people's lives. I knew he was very impactful, but I didn't realize he touched so many people. And it's really awesome. A quick story I have about Terez is just, obviously he's a football guy through and through. So we connected that way, and he was in the locker room covering the team. But in 2014, first game of the year, I tore my bicep. And I still had to be in the building for rehab. And he would kind of see me moping around, like, because I was just obviously disappointed. It was a critical year in my career. And he pulled me to the side one day, and he was like, look, man, you got to keep your head up. Like, this is a part of the business. Injuries happen. Just be ready when your opportunity comes. And that was just a brief conversation I had with him. And that impacted me. I had one of the best off seasons of my career going into the 2015 season, my fourth year, my contract final year with the Chiefs before going back. And I tore my meniscus the first play of preseason. Literally. So I'm out the first 8 weeks, and I'm thinking about that conversation from 2014. And he would always see me and he'd say, hey, look, man, are you happy? You good? Just checking on me. And literally, we went 1-5 2015. And the following week, I got inserted into the starting lineup. We won 11 straight games, won our first playoff game in a long time. I ended up going and getting a decent contract with the Houston Texans. And he was literally the first person to send me a message. He knew before I knew that I was going to Houston. And he congratulated me. And that just meant the world to me that, that's just the interesting dynamic between players and the media. But he cared about people. I mean, he cared about football a lot, but he cared about people more than football. And he did his best job to be fair and to write great pieces, even when we were struggling. And I always appreciate it about him. And I'm going to miss him. The pick, I got Tennessee picking. I'm going to go with Taven Jenkins from Oklahoma State, offensive tackle. Is he gone?
He is gone, unfortunately. Robert took him, or no, I'm sorry. I think BJ took him for the Raiders.
Robert wanted him, and I'm trying to make a trade now. If he wants to give me next year's 2, he can have Tevin, just so I can say I won once this is all done.
Glass is too deep.
Zaven Collins, linebacker, Tulsa.
Okay. Yeah. Collins, yeah. Zaven Collins. You know what I like about that pick too, Jeff? That's an all juice pick from the Yahoo article. So outstanding pick. He's off the board at number 22. And now we move on to pick number 23. And I welcome in my colleague from Sports Illustrated, Conor Orr. And for anybody that didn't get a chance to read Conor's piece, I don't remember. It might have been towards the end of last year, but certainly if you enjoy a little fish in your life, Conor's article about Jeff Jolly, who you can find on Twitter, who does a lot of the different sound and audio and bumps back with fish. And there's a few select groups of us that will just tweet out immediately. We get more excited about that than the actual game. So Conor, I love that piece and really have enjoyed and admired your work before starting at SI, but certainly now that we're colleagues, I've enjoyed the opportunity to get to know you a little bit and read your work as well. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And, Terez was just a wonderful person. And I guess the one thing that always stuck out to me is, when I always feel a lot of pressure when I travel for work and get sent to a big game. And I've always found myself watching a lot of the people that do the job at the highest level. And, I was lucky enough to, come up with someone like Jenny and, watch her work for so long. And I put Terez in that same school where I was just blown away by the way that he was able to talk to other people. That was always something that I felt that, I wasn't doing well enough in my own, career. And, I remember just before in the lead up before the Super Bowl, watching him work the Chiefs locker room, the last Super Bowl that we were allowed to go to and talk to people, or any of these other situations. And so just always blew me away, like how comfortable he was around everybody, how warm and engaging he was with everybody. And that's something that, if you're a young reporter, it's just so indispensable to watch somebody like that work, and to bring that friendship vibe that he brought with all of us, that warmth, that friendliness to all the players that he covered too, and I think there's no doubt there's a reason that there was, he was so good at this, right? Because everybody considered him a friend. That said, I have the Jets at 23, and from what I understand, Robert Saleh is, confident that he's going to get another edge guy here to complete the defensive line, quarterback with the number 2 pick and edge with 23. And so I think my best option here left, you guys have been picking apart the edge group on me here. You're killing me. But I think that might be Jalen Phillips. You worry a little bit about the injury history and some of the stuff going on there. But I think Saleh's pretty headstrong on this. I think he wants somebody to pair with Lawson and Sheldon Rankins and Quinnen Williams, and so that's what he gets done here.
Conor, thank you. And to sort of piggyback off of what you just said, and also in going back to what Jeff was talking about, it's intimidating the first time as a media member when you go into the locker room, because you're trying to do your job. You also know that the players a lot of times are trying to get through, get in, get out, and sort of the humanity of that moment, Jeff, for him to just ask how you were doing, and for you guys to be able to have that connection. I think a lot of times we're so focused as media members on just trying to get what we need and make sure that we're able to talk to the players that we need to. And sometimes you don't remember sort of the humanity that comes along. Like, these are human beings. And it's about, it's part of the reason that you can make a lot of meaningful relationships as a member of the media, but you have to know how to be able to do it the right way and not just make it about yourself. And Terez was the quintessential person to make it about everybody and to be able to do outstanding work while at the same time just being a good person along the way. So I'm glad both of you guys were to share those stories. Terez loved football. I think we all can certainly agree with that. I don't know if there's anybody on this Zoom that loved football more than Terez, but if there is one, it is Jay Binkley of 610 Sports, longtime host over at 610 in Kansas City, and also the last person to be hosting the Terez Paylor show. So Bink, it's great to see your face. It's great to talk to you. And thank you for being here, man, and be able to help share some stories.
Thanks for doing this. Terez Paylor, it's one thing to like a job, it's another thing to love it. I got the call that he passed when I was getting the vaccine shot, and I didn't want to believe it. I just talked to him the night before, and so full of life. I met the guy back doing high school football. He was like Sam Mellinger. He did high school football for the KC Star, shared press boxes with him, and talked about the stadium, the food at the stadium. He loved people, and he wrote the articles like he would cover the Super Bowl. He really did, because I go back and read this article, what he wrote about high school football and his passion for high school football. He displayed it with the NFL. And everything the man did. He was a Hall of Fame voter. That meant everything to Terez Paylor. The interviews that he would do, Alex Smith, Brandon Thorne, offensive line, he always wanted to make sure to email them to me and say, hey, listen to these. He was very proud of him. Loved this conversation with Alex Smith, but so proud of being a Hall of Fame voter. I mean, that was his thing. Is that didn't want to believe it, still don't believe it. really one of the most passionate people that I've ever met. But saying that, I'll go Najee Harris with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Terez would have loved this pick. Steelers haven't gone running back since 2008 in the first round with Rashard Mendenhall. Hell, they didn't even have a first-round pick last year for the first time in 53 years. They finally have one. I know Terez liked Najee Harris, so we'll go running back in the Steelers.
Thank you. It's actually a little bit funny that you bring up Rashard Mendenhall. In high school football, sort of in the same conversation. I got to broadcast a game in high school where Rashard Mendenhall ran over me and Danny's Trevians for like 300 something yards, just tore up New Trier. And I still think they ended up losing that game. And ended up going on to Illinois after that and having a solid NFL career. But it's funny sometimes how things come full circle a little bit. But yeah, echo all of those sentiments that you said. So thank you. I believe the board at 25 goes back to Kent Swanson with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So
Love
Kent,
you, Bink.
the floor is
I love
yours.
you, buddy. So funny story about the Hall of Fame voter. Me and BJ are down at the Senior Bowl, and Terez is gonna come through later, and he comes walking in, and he has this I don't know, it's like a pullover or a zip up or something, and it's a Hall of Fame voter jacket. It's got like an emblem on the side or on the shoulder or something. I don't know, but he was so proud of that jacket, and it was like a half serious, half kind of just leaning into the bit a little bit. But I mean, there was a legitimate sense of pride. Like it was like there was some legitimate pride to having that thing. And it ties into what Bink's talking about there is just, I mean, that was a big point of pride. And, it kind of sounds like some of the reports coming out, after the fact that, man, he made that count in a short amount of time. And what a cool story. Elijah Moore's the pick. Give Trevor Lawrence some help. All juice forever.
I love it. Elijah Moore off the board at pick number 25. Very excited to bring on our next person to pick at 26 for the Cleveland Brownies. Somebody who wrote up this year's All Juice team along with Charles Robinson and Pete Thamel over at Yahoo Sports. It's my buddy Eric Edholm. And Eric, it's great to see you, man. Thank you for being a part of this, and thanks for sharing some stories with us today.
Yeah, absolutely would not miss it. You guys have done a tremendous job, obviously listening to especially Jay and Jeff in the last few minutes, here, there really, personal, emotional takes was something else. And I'm going to try to lighten the mood a little bit. This is what I do. Maybe it's a, sort of a defense mechanism when I start getting all weepy and teared up and everything. But Super League, I think there are about 4 or 5 people who are in the Super League. It's a 20-team fantasy league. Charles Robinson started, I think, in, 1983 or something like that. I'm lucky enough to be in it. I got a spot when somebody bowed out. I know people get a little frustrated with those giant leagues like that. Terez was in it. And this is my best Super League performance this past year in like 5 years or something like that. I was in first place by a mile from like week 3 on, but then I started kind of losing steam a little bit. And guess who's coming up on my tail but Terez Paylor. And every week I keep seeing him kind of climb the rankings. I look at his roster. I was getting jealous. I'm looking at it going, oh no, this guy's going to catch me, isn't he? Sure enough, last week of the season, he passes me by like 9/1000th of a point. We had the same record, but the tiebreakers, the total points. And I'm just sitting there like kind of steaming about it. Like, this did not happen. I can't believe it. I lost the number 1 seed. I've knocked down to the whatever. It's more about the pride in this league. And I know Terez took a lot of pride in it. So I texted him. I knew he was on deadline. It's, it's week 16. It's probably like, or Monday night, whatever it was. And I texted him. I said, you off deadline? He said, yeah. So I called him and I'm like, can I swear on here? Can I, I said, you motherfucker, and he just bellowed on, laughed for like 25 seconds straight. And I was like, And I just started laughing too, because it wasn't that serious, you know, but it was just the fact. I'll never forget that laugh, that moment. Of course, the dude then goes on, burns through the playoffs, beats me in the semifinals, all-time champion. No one can beat him. He's our Super League all-time fantasy champion, greatest walk-off in history. So that's my little contribution for now. Sometimes I just find myself going through old texts that he sent, and I'm just like, like the day he died, I did that. A couple weeks ago, I did it. Tonight, I did it. I'm probably do it more times in the future when I feel like I'm just sort of off track a little bit. But that said, we got to get the Cleveland Browns a football player, and this is a guy that I think Terez would have been interested in. He was an all juice alternate. Let's put it that way. I had him on my bench, and I was considering putting him on there. Joe Tryon from Washington is my edge player that I'm going to give the Browns a little Jadeveon Clowney insurance. And, he was like this hyper frenetic player in 2019. I think Terez would have dug him. We never talked about him, but that's going to be my pick. And I think I'll see you guys in about 5 or 6 selections here.
You will indeed. Yeah, I never had the opportunity to go up against him, but man, that would have been fun.
That's fun. He would have kicked your ass,
If I can add to this, it is a brutal Jim Trotter, past winner in the Super League. It is a brutal, horrible, horrifying existence of a fantasy football league. And I remember the first year that he came in was the first year he had gotten to Yahoo. And we went through our first draft, and I was looking at all the people he took, and some of the picks, I was just like, what is he doing? Like he took Kittle, like Kittle's before Kittle, like it was Kittle's before his nuclear season. And we got to about the halfway point of the first season that he was in it. And I was looking at his roster, and I was like, oh, this is a mistake. I never should have let this guy in this league. I was like, he's going to be a problem. And he never missed the playoffs. I think he was in it like three years, never missed the playoffs, got better every single year, and then just beat the brakes off of everybody last season. Just beat and it was like he never had to cut anybody. He always would take people that, seemed like a reach, and they would always flourish, and it drove me crazy. He was so good. He just knew what he was doing. He knew I specifically remember thinking that first season though that, man, it was a mistake to let him in, because he was already better than all of us. And you expect your first year in, it's like hitting a brick wall. You always struggle. You always, you're terrible. You don't know what it feels like dealing with a 20-team league. And no, he took to it immediately. And I think even his first year, I think he finished 3rd, which was just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's unbelievable to go in, especially in that type of a league, and dominate like that from the very beginning. That's intense, especially as somebody who's been following a lot of fantasy football for a long time and covering it over at SI. I wouldn't have wanted to play against Terez, and this is what I do for a living. So he would have destroyed me. Let's continue on. Some of these stories, some of these picks, everything has been really, really special about tonight. And we head over to the Baltimore Ravens, and somebody that just wrote a beautiful column. I know it was one that you didn't want to write, but if it had to be somebody, Sam, I'm glad that you were able to just speak so eloquently about Terez's life, and we're all better off for having read it. So it's great to see you. I know it's been a while, but thank you for being here.
Yeah, no, man, this is an honor. I appreciate you asking. And I think like just the people that are on this call is just like such a testament to, kind of who Terez was or is, and what he meant to so many of us. I mean, God, I hope that we should all wish that people talk about us the way that we talk about Terez, right? Bink, I felt every word of what you said. Jeff, I think what you said about him coming up to you after your bicep, that is as Terez a story as I can imagine. I've been writing down all these notes, and I'm not going to get to them all, although I do have 2 picks, right, of all these Terez stories. The thing that like hit me the most in sort of the after, the first week or so after he passed is the impact he had on younger riders. I mean, that is so beautiful that he took the time do that. And you can tell by the way that people talk about him that were in that situation that that it wasn't just eyewash, to borrow a baseball phrase. I know this is a football team, but that he was genuine and sincere in all of those interactions. The thing about one thing that I hope is not lost in this is we all know that Terez loved football, and I was really fortunate to work really close with him for a while. And one thing that really strikes me now, and more now than when he was alive, by the way, because you start to think about things a little bit differently. He worked like a psychopath, right? I mean, just he'd go on vacation and watch film. He'd be in a hotel on the beach and he's watching film. And, you kind of think, what are you doing? He's like, I don't know, man, I'm a psychopath. And he started to sort of transition away from that a little bit. Still worked his ass off, don't get me wrong, but had more of a life balance, work-life balance the last few years. And that was really cool to see. And I think a big reason of that was Ebony, and that he found her, and the way that he talked about her was so beautiful. And I'll never forget this. I'll tell this quick story. And Alex Leatherwood is going to be my pick. I just think the Ravens need to get big. And by the way, I consulted on this pick with a guy in the NFL, in an NFL front office who told me he's wearing an all juice shirt today. I'm not wearing mine because I got a hoodie and it's too hot for a hoodie. So I'm wearing the next best thing. It's my No Days Off Mike Tyson's Punch Out shirt. Terez always sang the Mike Tyson's Punch Out song whenever he saw me in this shirt. So I thought it was a good one for him. But there was a time, I can't remember if it was before, it doesn't matter. He was asking me questions about my wife, Katie. And Katie and Terez really, really had a good relationship, liked each other. You could tell. And Terez always called her my tall wife. He's, how's your tall wife? And he was asking me, like, how do you know? How did you know that she was the one? And how do you, all these different questions. And it was maybe 3 or 4 minutes into the conversation, I realized he wasn't asking about Katie, he was asking about Ebony. All the stuff that he wanted to know, it was sort of how that relates to this new place in his life. And it was a really cool thing to, just to sort of see how he changed, sort of his worldview as him and Ebony fell in love. It was a really cool thing, man. I'll be back with funnier stories at pick 31.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
I'm excited to be able to welcome on Jim Trotter, host of the Hustle and Flow podcast of NFL Network and NFL.com. And
Huddle.
Jim,
Huddle.
oh, okay. I thought I might have cut out for a second. Jim, I feel bad, man. I know that we had talked about you taking for the Saints here, but you've been here for a while. You've had to sit through a lot of this. So I'm glad that the floor is now finally yours. So thank you for being here with us.
No, man, it's an honor. When you emailed me, wasn't any hesitation. Anyone who knows me knows I hate doing mock drafts. So if it weren't for Terez, I would not be doing this. Everything everyone has said is just tremendous. I'm not very good with these things. And so it's just, like with everyone else, it's hard, man. So I wasn't around Terez a lot, except when we were in the room for Hall of Fame voting, would run into him here or there. But there was a conversation we had once that it was a personal conversation, but it's one that stuck with me and has meant more to me than really almost any conversation I've had with anyone in this business. And it dealt with many of the things that you guys talked about in terms of the importance of giving back and reaching back and helping others behind you. And I won't get into the specifics of it, but I'll just say it's something that's never far from me. So it's funny, when I think of Terez, I think of one of our early meetings, because I didn't quite know how to take him, because as you guys say, he's so competitive that the first time I ran into him, I was in Kansas City for a story, and I just wanted to talk to him, just to vibe for a minute. And I got the sense that he thought I was trying to use him for information, for a story that I'm doing. And I'm like, no, no, I didn't say it to him, but I'm thinking in my head, bro, I'm just trying to get to know you. I'm not searching for information, but I realized then just how competitive he really was. And, he wasn't going to have some outsider come in and step on his beat and somehow show him up. So not that that's what I was trying to do, but anyway, so it took a minute for me to kind of really understand who is Terez Paylor and what is he about, because I'm like, look, we got too much in common, Black men, Howard University, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, we need to have a relationship, so, and ultimately we did. And when he got placed on the Hall of Fame voting committee, I was so happy to see him in there because, he took it really seriously to the point that the year Tony Gonzalez was up, we have this thing in the Hall of Fame room where it's like there are guys who are just no-brainers. And so you really don't even worry about them. You just kind of say their name, any questions, and you move on because there's no need to discuss them. I remember Tony Gonzalez was up, and he's one of those no-brainers. It's like all you gotta do is say his name. We all know he's going to the Hall of Fame. Terez is like, he's all worried. He's like, nah, I gotta say something. I gotta say something. I'm like, why do you feel you gotta say something? He's like, man, because just if he doesn't get in, I gotta know that I gave him his props and did him right. And I'm like, and I just kind of laughed at myself because that's how serious he took it, even though we knew, bro, there's no need for you to talk. Tony's good. But that's kind of who he is. I love this passion for the game, for football. He'll be missed, man, or he is missed. And so with that said, I won't go into much. For me, the Saints, we all know the Saints need cornerback help. When you have your head coach out talking about it every day of the week to every writer he can find, you have to believe they're going to go that direction. You guys have picked off some of the top ones. So I'm going to go Asante Samuel Jr. here for the Saints. And, hopefully, Dennis Allen can rest a little easier at night.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I know that these stories have been meaningful and so personal, and I know that some of you might have to go. So we'll try and keep things going a little bit quicker. But again, I'm just so appreciative of everybody's story and everybody taking time out of their day to help share these memories and honor his. So it does really mean the world. I'm going to go back to Jay, pick number 29 with the Green Bay Packers. Jay, as a Bears fan, I'm giving you permission for them to not address their offense. That's fine. Leave Aaron Rodgers on his own island. Have him get even more upset. Let him go host Jeopardy and play for another team. That's fine by me. But the pick is yours.
He's very good at Jeopardy, by the way.
It's outstanding.
Very, very good at Jeopardy. And as Jim said, Terez's passion, man, it's comes through. The Hall of Fame vote meant so much to him, and he talked about it all the time. But I'm going to make Aaron Rodgers mad. It is covering his offense, but he did lose his center, Corey Lindsay. He goes to the Rams. It's a big loss for Aaron Rodgers. That's why I'm going Landon Dickerson to be the center for the Packers. It's not addressing his skill position. I wanted to take maybe Elijah Moore, but Ken Swanson took him off the board. But you got to address the center. They lost theirs.
Awesome. Thank you, Jay. Pick number 30 to Buffalo. And once again, we go back to our friend Eric Edholm.
I'm legitimately curious if you guys have been avoiding Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah for the fact that nobody can actually pronounce his name. I'm serious about that. Like this is a value pick, and I'm going to go with that one here. I don't know if that's exactly what the Bills need, unless he's been taken and I didn't see it. That's going to be my guy right there. And it actually kind of reminded me of a quick story. I know you don't have much time, but I was kind of stumbling through a video that I was doing with Terez, and I kept stumbling on the same word over and over again. And I was worried I was going to stumble on Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah right now. And when I did that with Terez the last time, he just kind of looked over me. He's like, "You okay, bro?" And after that, I didn't mess up one more time. I was like, it was the icebreaker I needed. So this is a perfect sort of symmetry for this pick. And hell, I don't even know if the Bills need a linebacker. We're giving them one anyway.
No, you went for value on the board.
I went
Jeremiah
for the story.
Koramoa. And I thought I was doing well, and I might need to bro you good to try and close this out. Eric, thank you. Pick number 31 was the Chiefs pick. So I gave it to Sam. And then, of course, they went and traded for Orlando Brown. So you get another pick, Sammy, for the Baltimore Ravens. Lucky you.
Yeah. All right, let me talk about Terez real quick. One of the, I think, common threads of everything that we're talking about, if you think about it, is that man was always present. You know what I mean? Like the way for him to build all these different relationships with us, with players, with coaches, whatever, is when he was talking to you, that's what he was thinking about. And he was sharp as hell. I mean, he had a natural intelligence, of course, but God, he knew how to deal with people and talk with people in a next level way. I forgot who said this about going through old text messages. I went through mine, the last text exchange I had, Charles, I guess it was the second to last podcast that you guys did. And I was at the Super Bowl, and I was driving from a friend's house to the Super Bowl on that Sunday, and I was listening to it, and it was the Jerry Rice interview when you had him on. And I'm just, I'm driving, I'm listening to it, but I'm like, he didn't just say that, did he? And I rewind it. And so I pull out my phone at a red light, and I texted Terez, and I just said, my man really just told Jerry Rice, yeah, I'm a Hall of Fame voter. I'm the youngest one. And then he went on and made like there was no, it was not relevant to the question he wanted to ask. He just wanted to drop that in there. It killed me. And so I texted that to him, and within seconds, he just wrote back and he said, fuck yeah, I did. It was so good. That's all I had on Terez. I think Baltimore probably wants some weapons with Lamar, so let's go with Rashad Bateman.
Rashad Bateman off the board at pick number 31. And then once again, we go back to close things out, Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Jim Trotter. Jim, you can close it out for us, man.
This is easy for me. I'm just going to give Tom Brady another weapon. I know they went out and got Gio and look at the running back position, but I'm going to go Travis Etienne here. The guy's just too good to pass up. So that's it. To me, he's a tremendous football player. And I'm one of these people that believe you take impact players. I don't think you draft necessarily just for need. That's where clubs get into trouble, as we'll see at the top of the draft this year, particularly as it relates to these quarterbacks. And you just keep stacking good players. So for me, Travis is the pick.
Jeff, BJ, Jay, Kent, BK, Jim, Charles, Danny, Nate, Lindsay, Bill, Jenny, Sam, Connor, Will, Orlando, Robert, Eric, everybody else that was a part of this tonight. It's been an absolute honor to have you guys here. And then again, for everybody that is still hanging out with us on the live stream, you've heard these stories. We're gonna keep having these conversations because they deserve to be heard over and over again. That's how good they are. Please, if you are able to, make a donation tonight to the Terez Paylor Scholarship Fund at Howard. You can go to giving.howard.edu/give now. You can also go get the All Juice Team shirt from Breaking Tea that several of us are sporting tonight. This whole night kind of felt like just a good bowl of chicken soup. Kind of just warms your soul a little bit. Just being with all of you guys tonight and hearing all of this. So super appreciative of everybody's time. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for watching. And well, here's to you, Terez. We miss you, buddy. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
That was awesome, man.
We'll make sure that the recorded version that I had on Zoom gets posted too. I'll send that to all of you guys. Try and cut up some clips to be able to share those as well. So apologize. I know you guys sat through some audio issues, but meant a lot that all of you were here. So thanks again.
Yeah, you're the man. Thanks.
Appreciate it, man.
Talk to y'all. Be good.
Thanks for doing this, Heist. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you.